Coming up on this episode of the Seahawkers podcast, it is a 3-in, 3-out off-season spectacular. Let me ask you something, folks. How would you define the word important? We're going to find out today because I've got Brandan, I've got Mr. Phil, and of course I got myself. We are looking at the three most important Seahawks heading into this 2024 season. And no, they cannot be named Geno Smith. So let's see who gets picked on offense, who gets picked on defense. And yes, we have a wild card selection as well. Hit that button, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Make sure you're subscribing. It's an easy and really powerful way to help us out. Hit the bell so you're notified. And of course, always share this with 1212s. Let's find out who are those most important Seahawks. Let's go. Welcome in, welcome once again to the newest edition of 3-in, 3-out, the most unique Seahawks recap show in the multiverse. It is, of course, part of the Seahawkers Podcast Network. I'm your host, Clinton Bonner, and before I introduce my lovely guest, no, we don't have a game to recap. We're not quite there yet. No, we're not recapping the draft. We're out of draft season. But gentlemen, we are beginning to enter another season. It is list season. Mr. Phil, how are you doing down there? How are things for you, buddy?
Well, I thought it was interesting you called me a guest. I guess I've missed out on so many things lately before you bring in your guests. So I guess I'm a guest on the Seahawkers network of podcasts, and that makes me feel pretty special, Clinton. But it is a special season. I'm excited to consider the possibilities of our roster. Hey, there's a lot to look forward to with these guys.
I agree. And since you're a guest, and Brandan, you're a guest too, I suppose.
So. We're all here temporarily, so we're all guests, really, when it comes down to it.
When it comes down to it, we're all on. Yeah, we're all on the time. It's our time down here, like the Goonies, gentlemen, like the Goonies, and like our Seahawks. We do have something quite special and quite fun. It is 3-in, 3-out. It is an off-season spectacular. You guys know I love the numerology. So today we're going to get into the three most important Seahawks on the 2024 roster, who we, of course, will project to be on the team. There is one small caveat, one rule, because there's always a rule. And Brandan, I don't need your help this time. The guy that's sitting behind me on YouTube right over here, we can't pick Geno Smith. So what we're going to do is we're going to debate. We're going to get in the ring together. I don't know if it's an octagon or a trigon, the three of us. I'm not sure how that works geometry-wise. And we're going to debate who's the most offensive player, the most important offensive player, the most important defensive player, and then we'll have a wild card. We're not doing special teams because that's lame. We're going to do wild card, whatever we want. And since we're all guests here, why don't we open this up? Brandan, you're the godfather of this whole darn thing. Would you like to go offense or defense? What do you choose?
Ooh, I choose offense.
Okay, so Brandan chose offense. Phil, you're the other guest besides myself as the third guest. Brandan chose offense. You get to go first. Who is your first offensive player here, or maybe your only one, the most important Seahawk on offense? And convince me it is him. Go ahead, bud.
Okay. So with Geno off the table and the word important, when you put this out there for us, Clinton, I suppose you decided we could define that for ourselves, right?
Of course. This is
the
wet
word
clay.
Important, what that means. And so
Absolutely.
Very hard. I've got the fishbowl of names here. It was tough to narrow it down on offense, but I finally got it down to 4. And here's I'm teetering on these two choices for different reasons. So I'm guessing you guys can hit on it. Here's what I want to see, and here's why I'm saying important. I'm going Ken Walker, and because I feel like if Ken Walker has a great season, obviously he didn't get there on his own, but this is my way of kind of including the whole offensive team, including the play calling, balance, where the O-line is. Since I can't pick them all, and since I can't pick Geno, I'm going to pick the guy that will represent everybody's doing the football things well the best. And him not getting injured and being able to do his Ken Walker thing will mean we're going to have a lot of fun watching offense this year. That's why he's my number one most important player for the season, Clinton.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so K9, the barometer is what I'm picking up there, Brandan. So it's like, if he's right, then we are very happy campers and likely marching into the playoffs. Is how I see it. And, if he's that important, then oh heck, I'm going to have 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, maybe 3 through the air, 16 total. That feels like a pretty important season. So, all right, I'm going to defer one more time, Brandan. Let's see if and by the way, folks at home and watching and listening and everything else, all the waves, we don't know what we're going to choose. We don't know if we're going to double each other up. We don't know if we're going to triple each other up. We have no idea. We probably won't quadruple each other. That would be awesome. Brandan, your first offensive player, most important. Let's hear from you.
I don't even know what I'm going to choose. We're just winging this thing, right? None of us know. I am going to choose, much like Phil is using Kenneth Walker as the barometer for the offense as a whole. I'm using Abe Lucas as a barometer for the offensive line as a whole, because I think a lot of it hinges upon his health. If he can maintain and come back as that healthy right tackle and be that guy throughout the season, I think it gives us a lot more potential to have a balanced offensive line that can withstand change along the interior, because you're adding Laken Tomlinson. I don't know much about that guy as far as him being good. I'm not optimistic, but you can have one guy on the offensive line that can be okay and get by. You're counting on Oluwatimi making a jump in his second year. You're counting on Christian Haynes being able to come in and supplant Anthony Bradford. I mean, maybe Bradford makes a move over to the left side. Who knows? But my point is with Lucas is if you have to take him out of the equation, then all of a sudden you're trying to piece things together. Yes, you brought in George Fant, but can George Fant hold up at right tackle? If he can't, then are you relying on Stone Forsythe? And then you're trying to make this all work, and you don't have like solid continuity on the offensive line. And so I'm picking Abe Lucas.
Abraham Lucas for the win for Brandan. And, what I do know about George Fant is that man can play some basketball. We know these things already, right? So, all right. So we got K9 so far from Mr. Phil. We got Abe Lucas from Brandan. This is, again, the most important offensive player. It cannot be Geno. And when we do defensive, it also cannot be Geno, because that'd be a wild pick. All right. So I am going to the exact opposite end of the line. I am going Mr. Charles Cross. And here are my reasons. First and foremost, it's left tackle, people. It's left tackle. This is the NFL. This is his blind side. There was a movie about that whole thing. It's okay. I think I prefer speed better. All right. Second reason for me is also, Brandan, you hinted at this. The left side is more of an anomaly, because I don't know what we're getting with Laken Tomlinson. I don't know if Samea is going to pick right up as a 6th round pick, 6th round or 5th round, 6th round,
6th round. Yeah.
6th round pick out of Utah, and all of a sudden be plug and play. Like lots of people seem to think he might just be able to, maybe, but that doesn't happen that often in the NFL. So it's a bit of a void next to him. So it's just that much more important that he is that much more important. The other thing too, for me, is it's year 3. So from a structure and team building side of this whole thing, this is the year that determines, will he get a 5th-year contract as a first rounder? That's really important for team building. And what is that going to do in terms of what happens next year? Do you say, no, you're not getting the 5th-year contract, and all of a sudden you are tackle hunting in the first round again? Or no, he pitches into a, let's say, above average left tackle, and all of a sudden you're like, nope, we're locked up for 2 more years. We could build the team in a much, much different manner, which I think is really, really interesting. And then I had one more. The last one is just the Grubb factor, how he's going to work in the Grubb offense. Grubb wants his tackles and guards to move quite a bit, at least based on what we saw in UW. And I think it suits Charles Cross's game that much more. And I think this will delight both of you when those guys are moving in space and Christian Haynes is pulling to the left-hand side, and we get a screen pass to Ken Walker for 82 yards down the sidelines, and Cross is pancaking dudes a la Walter Jones. We'll all be very, very happy campers. So that is my choice there for most important. So we had K9 from Mr. Phil. We had Abe Lucas anchoring down the right-hand side from Brandan. And of course, we have Charles Cross from me on the left-hand side. So let's pause there. And now we have to be judge, Judy, and executioner. And I know that's a Simpsons joke, people, and decide. So how are we going to decide? We have to decide and decide quickly. Who
I have 2 bits of good news. I have 2 bits of good news here. We're all right. All 3 of us are right. I had these on my list. The second piece is I'm right the most. So it's perfect. It's a wonderful situation for all of us. We can all be right, and I can be right the most, and we can just move on. No,
I'm
but
trying to decide if we should disqualify Clinton because I'm not sure if I heard this correctly, but I thought I heard him call our 6th round pick Slaumea, which
Samea.
oh,
Not, not,
I thought that disqualifying was
which
when
seems like a combination of Satawa and Laumea together.
oh,
And
maybe.
Slaumea.
I thought it was like a coleslaw, a Slamea. No, I don't know. I haven't met the guy yet, So Lamea, right? Lamea. I think I did call him Samea. Yeah, that's okay. I'm new here. I would say Mr. Phil gets disqualified because he doesn't have a lineman. So maybe 2/3 of the flockdom here is saying the line's more important. And I think that would be the odd man out to say if we got to axe somebody and kick him off the island for this part first.
there's
I
a
don't
few
know.
Well, if 2 of
problems.
you are getting disqualified, that means I'm de facto the winner. So
No,
congratulations to me.
There's a few problems here with Clinton's logic, and that
okay,
we have
let's
to
hear it.
cross out here. You were cruising along really well, and why I might have picked Cross. Brandon was cruising along with Lucas, but I'm concerned about him. I think Fant is kind of like he might be okay, or Forsyth
Mhm.
if we have to, and we're kind of hedging there. I want Lucas to be healthy. My problem with Clinton's argument was when he started throwing in the name Walter Jones with Charles Cross, because
Mhm.
that means we fail. If Cross has to look like Walter Jones, then our most important player is going to fail, and then it's not going to be a great season. So we can't go with that logic. Brandan has a guy that's, I love his choice, but, he's we're not sure if he's going to make it. There's no doubt if Walker does what he can do, we're going to have a fun offensive season. I'm sure the listeners in the chat, they're going to agree with me. I can't imagine otherwise.
So we do have to move on because we have to get this. We have to get to defense and then the wild card. I'm going to say I've heard them all. While I still like mine the best, and I know I'm right, I'm going to give it to Brandan because he had an offensive lineman. Abe Lucas, most important offensive player for the Seahawks 2024. And now we move on to the defense. Okay, so we went Phil first last time. Brandan picked, but I'm hosting this thing today. Brandan, why don't you kick it off with defense? I'll start the wild card round. Defense, most important player. Who you got?
My most important player on defense is Tyrell Dodson, who is coming over from the Buffalo Bills, playing some linebacker. I have some concerns around Tyrell Dodson because according to most Buffalo Bill fans, and this seems to be what is played out, is that he is a very solid run defender. And I know a lot of people will point, well, but PFF says that he's really good at pass coverage. Not according to Buffalo Bills fans who actually watched him in pass coverage and referred to him as a liability. And so if he's having to, part of it is based on the defense. And so, hey, if he can be great, stop the run, first and second down, they can move to nickel or dime. He comes off the field on third down. That will alleviate that potential concern. But if you have the offense, if they start attacking first and second down toward the middle of the field, the weakness being Tyrell Dodson, then I think we have the potential to be in trouble, have that weakness in the middle of the field, and we're going to need to find something else. And it might end up relying then on our 4th round pick, Tyrese Knight. And we'll have to wait to see then if he's ready to go right away at the start of the season.
Okay, so Brandon's out of the chutes there with Dodson, our 1-year linebacker, perhaps more, but right now signed for 1 year. It is a position of, at the very least, intrigue as we have Baker and Dodson and Tyrese Knight, and then a smattering of still unproven guys in Thomas and O'Connell and maybe Radigan, and we'll see how the rest of the roster shakes out. All right, Mr. Phil, I'll go second this time. Give you the cleanup spot. And then we'll go on to wild card, and then we'll pick apart why Brandon's answer on this round isn't very good. Okay, so my answer for this one is I'm going to go, gentlemen, with Jonathan Hankins, Mr. Hanky, the giant man in the middle of that defense.
Big surprise.
Yeah, right. Me taking a beefy boy, right? Big surprise. There's 2 things here. Number one, we were god awful against the run last year. Just 30th in many categories, 32nd. when that's the bad side of it, right? 32nd against in many categories, just against the run. And then you get back to those games like the Steelers games and others we don't even want to think about and talk about. Just demoralizingly poor job against the run. And they bring in the big man to change all that. Now, the part that he adds to is he's not going it alone by any means. And this is part two, why I think he's so important. Now, all of a sudden, you got Murphy. You've got, sorry, I have my glasses on. You got Murphy. You've got Reed. You've got Big Leo. You got Draymond Jones. And in a 3-4 defense, the ability to have like a really fresh rotation and have Hankins there who could give those guys enough spells where Jaron Reed does not need to play 95% of the snaps and Leo Williams maybe can get a little bit of a blow. So in the fourth quarter, he's fresh and Murphy can get up to like NFL snap count and NFL play speed. I look at Hankins as being an absolute centerpiece. That's going to be that kind of rock steady all year long. While we want really good defensive tackles to keep linebackers clean, I'm also looking this on that meta level of we want Hankins to keep our other dudes super clean and super effective. And if he is, and I think he can be, it's going to make this team a lot better. So Hankins is my dude up the gut. Of course, I'm taking the big beefy boy, Mr. Phil. Who do you got on defense?
I like it, Clinton. And I like how our answers are going to keep getting better as we talk about the defense. And just kind of double the importance as we move along here from Brandon's to yours. I'm going to keep the trend going, I think, quite easily with what you left on the table. There's two best players on our defense. Now, the right answer to this, the most important Seahawk to me, without a doubt, would be Coach Mike. He's definitely the most important for our defense if I was going to pick a Seahawk. But I'm going to go with one of the two best players, and I think Spoon's going to be awesome already, and I just count on him being awesome. But this guy has to prove, and I think he will, the contract that he's given. To me, it's Leo Williams, consistent difference maker. Whatever the offense is throwing at us, Leo is a plus player. If they're passing, he can be disruptive and make it tough on the quarterback, not giving him a place to step up. I think he's a leader. I think he's very smart. I agree with you. The rotation is so important. So, I mean, I like the whole rotation, but to me, the most important guy that has to do it is the guy who I think will and can do it, being Leo Williams. He's got a good cast around him, but he's going to be the spear of this thing. And so if Leo has a great year, I feel like if Leo has a great year, we're going to be pretty happy with our defense, because that was a playoff offense last year. That was a winning offense. The defense was a losing defense. And so Leo Williams is my choice as we keep making the answers better.
That's a couple of interesting answers from guys who have never heard of the phrase, "You're only as strong as your weakest link."
What does that say about this show right now, Brandon, with that answer you provided in round two here? So look, I don't think there's much of an argument that we stepped up in the, like, who's the better player, right? Because Leo Williams is the stud out of the three. Hankins more of a role player, Dotson stepping into a starting role. My key argument versus Dotson, and Brandon, you kind of made the argument for us, is that it's not just Buffalo Bills fans were a little bit like, oh no, he's really good. Look at the PFF grades. He didn't play on third down. They took him off the field and they brought in another safety, and Buffalo was quite good at that. And I also expect Mike McDonald to do very similar things because he wants to get a third safety in there, and just put different personnel out there. I don't think he's going to play much on third down, and I don't think he needs to. So it's tough for me to vote for a dude that I don't think's on the field for 3 downs at a time.
I made the point that they'd be attacking him on first and second down. If the team's not getting if the opponent's not getting to third down, then he's on the field an awful lot.
Yeah, you made a point. All right, so I want someone to attack my Hankins. Please give it to me. Where am I wrong?
Do it, Brandon. Get him back. I'll sit over here while you guys fight.
I see what's going on.
An important piece, but I don't know if it's the most important. I think that when you have Leonard Williams, when you have Byron Murphy up front, I don't know. I think that the beef up front that the Seahawks have means that I don't think opponents are going to be testing the middle of the field and running up against the middle of the field because they're going to see it as stout, and it's going to show out that way early on. And again, it leads to my concern, and that's why I picked the player I did.
Yeah.
Here's why, Clinton. Here's why your answer can't be right. And I like Hankins, but we need Reed or we need Hankins, and then we can still have Cam Young be the second guy in the rotation either way. One of those guys going down, we're still okay. We can't lose both Reed and Hankins. That's a problem. But I can't say Hankins is most important because we still have Reed to handle some things. Whereas if Leo goes down, there's no replacement for Leo. We will take a step back if he goes down. That my thinking of important might be different than y'all's, but that's where I'm at.
I wasn't playing injuries into this factor, Phil, because that's negative thinking, and I won't tolerate it. You're disqualified.
And for me, there's not much of an argument against Leo. It's except for like, oh, it's a chalk answer, but that wasn't part of the rules, right? The rules are what they are, and it's a little open ended. We can determine what important means, and to say Spoon and Leo are probably the two most important, it's probably a wise decision. We need to move on to round 3. So Mr. Phil with Leo Williams is the winner. Leo Williams is the most important Seahawk on defense in 2024. All right, now we're onto the wild card. You can pick whatever you want. It could be a special teamer. I didn't say no coaches, so I guess coaches are on the table. But it could be a wild card, and I get to go first this round. So my most important Seahawk, who is a wild card, goes by the name, another big man, go figure. This is Olu Oluwatimi. And here's a couple of reasons why Olu Oluwatimi is extremely important to our Seattle Seahawks. Number one, the dude's in year 2, and we didn't see all that much last year of him. He came in different spells when Evan Brown was getting a little dinged up, and he played, I'd say, admirably. But we don't know what we don't know yet. This is another 5th round pick, and yes, went to a big school. A 5th rounder from 2 years ago is now an absolute starter in the NFL, and there's really not much of a backup plan. It's a big risk, hence the importance is really big along with that. The other part is, hey guys, the center calls the game on the offensive side. We have got to get markedly better on 3rd down specifically. We got to give Geno a chance to stay upright, or at least not be pressured over 50% of the time on obvious passing downs, which in 3rd down. And Oluwatimi is going to be the dude literally calling out the blocking schemes. And he's going to have a rookie, most likely to the right, probably a first-year veteran to the left, and then still 2 young players anchoring this on the left and right side. Center is huge. Oluwatimi is super important. He's my wild card. I think we go now to Mr. Phil.
Ooh.
Who's your wild card? Yeah.
Okay, I liked your answer a lot. That's a wild way to put it. I would put Mike McDonald. I have all these answers left, and it's really hard for me to narrow it down because I did all these write-ups from here. And you guys have mentioned a lot of these guys, but I think I want to go with Uchenna Nwosu because I feel like we're forgetting just a little bit of how valuable and important he was on this team. I don't think we have another guy that is quite versatile on the edge. He's going to be a plus at whoever he's going against for the most part, whether it's in the run or the passing game. And we know Coach Mike, as I keep trying to infuse thoughts of him into my answer, loves these versatile players. One that he's an advantage for us, however it goes. And I really believe even Coach Pete was very much hurt with Uchenna going down. We might still have the same coach if Uchenna hadn't gone down. I'm not saying we would for sure, but I don't think it's crazy to consider that our defense could have been quite a percentage better if Uchenna had been there. And so him coming back fully healthy, doing his thing, can again really up what we were down at last year.
I think we're 2 for 2 so far with these wild cards. Can we go 3 for 3? Brandon, who you got?
I got to go with offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb as my wild card because
Grubhub.
when you look at the coaching staff on the defensive side, I don't have too many concerns because Mike McDonald's done it at multiple levels. He's had success, and then he has other guys. He has Adam Dirty, who is the defensive coordinator that to bounce things off of. Shoot, he has Leslie Frazier as an assistant head coach to bounce things off of, who has like a really deep defensive background, both as a coach and then as a player for, of course, the 85 Bears team that won the Super Bowl. So they have all of this knowledge and skill on defense. And then Ryan Grubb on the offensive side, while he's done well at the college game, he doesn't have all of those pieces to pull from to help coordinate and build the offense for the Seahawks. So it's kind of down to him and Geno Smith. We know Geno Smith's off the board. So I got to go with Ryan Grubb as my wild card pick.
All right. So I do think we went 3 for 3. I think those are great answers in the wild card round. I'm pretty nervous, to be honest, boys. I want to win one of these, but I'm not sure my heart's saying that I will win one of these. And any arguments against any of the ones on the board? I got Olu, Mr. Phil. You had Nuosu, which is a great pick, and Brandon with the whopper with Grubb and all the uncertainties that come along with him. So, Mr. Phil, any arguments against mine or Brandon's?
I got mad at myself in my head while we started this round because I realized I was being negative toward a couple of my friends, and I appreciate their opinions. And so starting this, I thought, the right way to think is I like these. And in reality, I do like the answers. I think what stands out to me is we all interpreted important in our own way. Brandon interpreted as the guy that could swing things one way or the other. Like this guy, Abe, if he's there, boy, our O-line might look really good, but we don't know how he's going to come back. Our linebacker, boy, we haven't heard great things, but maybe Mike unlocks him and then we get a linebacker. And then he goes to his third answer with Grubb. We don't know what this offense will be like. Maybe it's awesome. Maybe it's terrible. And then we had Clinton. He's looking for more like important as kind of a glue guy, he's going to make the whole thing work. This guy is somebody that needs to be solid and reliable. And for me, I'm thinking a guy that's going to go out there and really leap forward, make the difference. Important as to you watch the game, and a lot of the times you said that guy mattered. That guy's why we won. He flashed a bunch. And so we all interpret it different. I think according to our interpretation, we all had perfect answers in this round.
Yeah, but hey, by the way, Mr. Phil, very well said. You gave me some good ideas. I think I'll do one of those little fancy openings, a little cold open thingy, and you just gave me some ideas, so I'll cut that in later. All right, so and we have to end it. We said this will be about a half-hour one, so I'll make the call here. I'm gonna just say, as much as I want to reward myself and do a Cadillac trot, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna give it to Brandon. I'm gonna say Grubb. I'm going to say Grubb was a really interesting answer.
Yeah.
And doesn't matter.
I was going to give it to Phil because he had such a compelling summary of all of ours that he should be rewarded with the Nuosu pick.
Phil wins the we have a Brandon. Oh,
so Brandon. I've never won a Brandon. That's way more valuable to me than winning this game. I love this.
Okay, I'll give my Brandon to Phil, and then I'll take the dub.
There we go. We obviously won, and so that means we get a Brandon. We have 2 rules this time, and why not? It's the off-season spectacular. Phil gets the Brandon for a lovely summary. You go 2 out of 3 in the meatloaf world. That ain't bad. I take a golden sombrero, but I'm okay with it because I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with you guys. Brandon, can you tell our listeners, our watchers, our people, the Hawkra, our 12s, the flock, tell them what they need to be doing to help us grow that Hawkra?
Yes, well, we enjoyed ourselves here today. So if you enjoyed it too, give us a like out on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't yet done so before, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to help keep this show going, support us at, where do they go? Getintheflock.com. That's where you go.
It's been a minute. It's a long off season, people, right? It's been a minute, but we had a lot of fun. Mr. Phil, any parting words of wisdom as we now head into, really into list season before we get into some of the actual football stuff?
Clinton, I'm going to say you win for a winning show idea. Everybody is a winner. Our Seahawks are going to be winners this season. So with that, Clinton,
I think there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.